October 14th, 1943. 20,000 feet above Schweinfurt, Germany. The roar of Wright cyclone engines thunders through the thin, freezing air as 291 B-17 Flying Fortresses lumber in their tight combat box formations, a wall of aluminum and 50-caliber guns slicing toward the heart of Nazi industry. You can almost feel the bone-chilling cold seeping through the plexiglass turrets, the gunners' breath fogging their sights as they scan the hazy blue for the first glint of enemy wings. Below, the Bavarian landscape blurs into a patchwork of fields and factories, but up here, it's a deadly chessboard. The ball-bearing plants of Schweinfurt pulse like the Reich's mechanical heart. Knock them out, and Hitler's war machine grinds to a halt. But the Luftwaffe knows it too. Suddenly, from the east they come, sleek Messerschmitts Bf-109s of Jagdgeschwader 26, not in rigid lines like the old days, but in loose, finger-like clusters, the Finger Four tactic perfected by Vanner Molders during the Spanish Civil War. The American crews, cocky from months of daylight precision bombing, had laughed off reports of this sloppy German setup. Undisciplined amateurs, they'd scoff in briefings, trusting their interlocking fields of fire to shred any attacker. But now, as the swarm slices in like wolves through sheep, the laughter dies. The lead pair dives high, drawing eyes upward, while the trailing rotten swings low and wide, cannons flashing 20mm shells into the bombers' bellies. Tracers zip past frozen gunners. One B-17 erupts in flames, its wings shearing off in a tumbling spiral. In minutes, the sky fills with parachutes and burning fortresses. 60 bombers lost that day. Black Thursday, the bloodiest for the 8th Air Force. From disbelief to horror, the Yanks realize this isn't just a formation, it's a predator's dance, turning their mighty boxes into sitting targets. But the skies over Europe held more shocks. Shift to March 1944, high above Berlin. Hermann Göring's Jagdflieger, bloated with arrogance, dismiss whispers of Allied fighters piercing their domain at impossible heights. The Spitfire's Merlin will choke up there, they jeer in mess halls, confident their supercharged Bf-109Gs own the stratosphere. Then, like ghosts in the ether, Squadron Leader James O'Meara's pressurized PR-19 Spitfires appear at 42,000 feet, unarmed, cameras whirring over the Reich's capital. Focke-Wulf's claw upwards, engines straining, but the blue-painted phantoms streak away, mapping every factory, every flak tower with surgical precision. Panic rebels through Luftwaffe command. These reconnaissance birds guide 1,000-bomber raids, turning the tide from hunter to hunted. You imagine the German pilots' stunned faces as the impossible becomes routine, their vaunted air superiority crumbling under high-altitude eyes. Across the Channel, mockery breeds its own reversal. In 1940, British admirals eye the Focke-Wulf FW-200 Condor with disdain, a lumbering converted airliner, easy meat for Fulmar fighters from carriers like HMS Illustrious. Flying target, they call it, underestimating its four-engine endurance. But Oberst-Lieutenant Edgar Peterson's Kampfgeschwader 40 unleashes hell on Atlantic convoys. Shadowing for days the Condor's swoop with HS-293 glide bombs, sinking 28 ships in a single month. Over 100,000 tons drowned in icy waves. From bridges of flaming freighters, captains watch in horror as the scourge of the Atlantic turns oceans into graveyards, forcing desperate inventions, escort carriers, hedgehog mortars, arrogance to defeat in salt-sprayed fury. Yet innovation flips the script. In the damp Nissen huts of RAF Kolteschall, civilian engineer Jeffrey Henson tinkers with the AI Mark 8 radar, jerry-rigging a helical scanning dish that shrinks blind spots and doubles detection range overnight. De Havilland Mosquito NF-13 crews like Wing Commander Bob Bram suddenly spot Me-110s 30 miles out, closing at 400 miles per hour in radio silence. Over Berlin's blacked-out sprawl, the wooden wonders strike first, cannons blazing before the Nachtjagd senses doom. Bomber losses halve, desperation births victory. The night holds terrors too. In the grim winter of 1943-44, RAF bomber command crews never dream of upward-firing cannons hidden in U-88 roofs, Schlagermusik, jazz music in deadly slant. Oberleutnant Rudolf Frank's radar-equipped fighters slip beneath Lancaster streams at 20,000 feet, unseen by tail gunners. One burst of 20 millimeters into fuel tanks, one fireball. Over Nuremberg, 30 Lancasters plummet in flames, a night of slaughter, forcing ventral guns and corkscrew evades. Shock ripples through squadrons. How do you fight what you can't see? April 18th, 1943. 0712 local time, Bougainville Island, Solomon Islands. The twin Allison engines of 16 P-38 Lightnings howled at full military power as they skimmed the wavetops, drop tanks glinting under a blood-orange dawn. You taste the salt spray on your lips, feel the vibration rattling your teeth, as Captain Thomas Lamphere, leading the 339th Fighter Squadron, thumbs the mic. Radio silence, eyes on the Betty, 400 miles to target. No mistakes. Back in Rabaul, Elite Zero pilots of the 251 Kokutai laughed at grainy photos of the twin-bomb American fighter. Fork-tailed joke, they sneered over sake, convinced its size and weight doomed it against their nimble A6Ms. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto himself dismissed it as clumsy, planning his inspection tour of Bougainville with casual confidence. But U.S. codebreakers at Pearl Harbor cracked the itinerary, down to the minute. Operation Vengeance was green-lit. 16 Lightnings, 4 killers, 12 cover, launched from Guadalcanal's Henderson Field at the edge of range. Now 400 miles out, Lamphere's flight climbs to 18,000 feet. 2 Mitsubishi GM4 Bettys appear dead ahead, escorted by 6 Zeros. The Americans jettison drop tanks in a silver rain. Lamphere and his wingman Rex Barber roll in from 6 o'clock high. The lead Betty, Yamamoto's, banks lazily, unaware. Lamphere's 6.5 calibers spit fire, tracers stitch across the fuselage. Barber follows, cannons hammering the port engine. Flames erupt. The Betty spirals into the jungle in a fireball, Yamamoto's body flung clear, still clutching his white-gloved katana. The escort Zeros whirl, but the P-38s are already gone. Splixie dives to the deck, throttles firewalled. From laughter to decapitation in 90 seconds. Japan's naval genius, architect of Pearl Harbor, erased by the plane they mocked. The psychological blow ripples across the Pacific. If Yamamoto can die mid-flight, no one is safe. But the Pacific wasn't the only theater where underestimation bled into terror. Fast forward to July 12, 1943, tree-line height over Prokhorovka, Kursk salient. The largest tank battle in history rages below, 1,500 Panzers versus 1,900 T-34s. But up here, the sky belongs to whoever turns tighter. Soviet commanders had written off the new Yak-3 as cannon fodder against Focke-Wulf 190 Jabos diving with 500-kilogram bombs. Then Lieutenant Lydia Litviak, the White Lily of Stalingrad, rolls her lightweight Yak-3 inverted at 500 feet, snaps inside a diving Focke-Wulf 190, and rips its belly open with 20mm Schwach fire. The German pilot never sees her. One burst, one kill. Word spreads like wildfire through VVS squadrons. The Yak-3 can outturn anything at low level. Suddenly, T-34s below advance under a Soviet air umbrella. The Eastern Front sky flipped in a single dogfight. Across the globe, another reversal brews in American test hangars in 1942. Nass-Patuxent River, the Voight 4U Corsair, nicknamed Ensign Eliminator for its vicious stall and 13-foot propeller, sits condemned by Navy brass. Too dangerous for carriers. Then test pilot Boone Guyton straps in, pushes the gull-winged beast past 500 miles per hour in a screaming dive, yanks it out inches from the Chesapeake Bay. His data berths the curved landing approach and raised seat. By Guadalcanal, Major Gregory Pappy Boyington's VF-17 Jolly Rogers are carving Zeros 8-1, the Bentming Bird crowned king of the carrier wars. Yet even as Allied pilots mastered their machines, the Luftwaffe struck back with terror from below. Summer 1944, Peenemünde V1 site, Baltic coast. Hauptmann Hans Meyer's flat gunners laugh at the idea of a single fighter breaching their 88mm curtain. Then squadron leader Roland Beaumont in a rocket-armed Hawker Typhoon 1B screams in at 400 miles per hour, ripple-firing 8 RP-3 rockets. Launch rails vaporize in a thunderous pass. From the ground, survivors stare at the smoking crater, London's buzz bomb nightmare silenced in one strafing. But the most dramatic reversal of all unfolded in 4 minutes over a Pacific atoll, where American generals watched an empire's air arm die in flames. June 4th, 1942, 10:26 a.m., north of Midway Atoll, Central Pacific. The deck of USS Yorktown vibrates under Rear Admiral Frank Jack Fletcher's boots as SB Dauntless dive bombers claw for altitude, their radial engines screaming against the salt-laden wind. You hear the distant thunder of anti-aircraft fire from the Japanese fleet, smell the avgas fumes wafting from the catapults. Below, turquoise waves hide coral reefs that could gut a carrier in seconds, but up here it's all about timing. Captain Miles Browning, Rear Admiral Fletcher's air boss, hunches over the radar plot. Enterprise and Hornet birds inbound. Nagumo's flat tops are sitting ducks, decks crammed with refueling Zeros. The Imperial Navy's Kido Butai, Akagi, Kaga, Suryu, and the elusive Zuikaku had launched everything at Midway's airstrip, leaving them vulnerable. U.S. codebreakers. American codebreakers knew it. Now, vengeance for Pearl Harbor hangs in the balance. American lookouts had dismissed early scout reports of Yankee carriers as exaggerated, their aces still buzzing from the morning's turkey shoot of obsolete devastators. But Browning's strike is poetry in motion, perfectly timed as Nagumo's decks swarm with ordnance. The first Dauntless from Enterprise plunges from 14,000 feet, bomb bay doors yawning. Lieutenant Commander Wade McCluskey leads the scream, straight down the Akagi stack, 1,000-pounders detonating hangars into infernos. Avgas lines rupture, torpedoes cook off in chain reactions. Kaga follows, her deck erupting like a volcano. Suryu twists in agony, black smoke billowing as fires lick her island superstructure. In 4 catastrophic minutes, 3 carriers become pyres, flames leaping 200 feet, crews abandoning ship amid exploding Zeros. Fletcher watches from Yorktown's bridge as radar pings fade. Then Zuikaku's radios go silent, her sister Hiryu soon to follow in a afternoon reprisal. Nagumo's staff freezes in realization. The Imperial Navy's air arm gutted, 248 planes lost. The Pacific's power flipped in a heartbeat. From arrogance to ashes, Midway marks the war's pivot. Japan on defense, America surging toward Tokyo. These skies, from Schweinfurt to the Solomons, from Berlin's heights to Kursk's dust, tell a universal tale. Mockery crumbles under innovation's weight. Disbelief yields to brutal truth. Pilots who laughed found themselves hunted. Tactics dismissed became lifelines. In the roar of engines and flash of cannons, World War II's air wars forged legends from reversals, turning underdogs into victors. What lessons echo today from those frozen cockpits?